Hi everyone, Carter Krishner for Beyond the 90. I wanted to talk a little bit about the next tactical evolution for Pep Guardiola, or is it just Pep has lost the plot? Because we've seen since 2008, when Pep Guardiola innovates, sometimes we don't recognize it at first. And a year or two later, everybody's copying him. The 4-3-3 became a vogue formation because of what? And at the time, Guardiola threw the 4-3-3 out, even though Frank Rijkaard had played that also at Barcelona. You had, it was the way it was played, right? The way Iniesta was used in that formation, the way Busquets slid in to that midfield, the way Xavi played, although that was the way Xavi had always played. But that's what transformed, and everybody was looking for that, to copy that. Then the next thing you saw was when he was at Bayern and he moved Philipp Lahm into midfield. Everybody was looking for either that guy who could play as a number 6, who was a ball player and intelligent, could be, to use an American football term, a quarterback on the pitch, which certainly Philipp Lahm was, or inverted fullbacks, which the best fullback in my opinion of the last 10 years in English football, maybe the last 15 years, and you could make an argument globally, was Kyle Walker, who of course developed under Mauricio Pochettino at Tottenham. We should acknowledge that before we talk about Guardiola being at Manchester City for one season and seeing that his fullbacks, who were good fullbacks, Sagna, Clichy, two guys that have won a lot for Arsenal, and Clichy won a lot for City as well, Zabaleta, Kolarov, they couldn't cut it in the way he likes to play football. And then Jesus Navas, he moved to right back for the end of that season, but Navas's pace was what made him a difference maker for Del Bosque, Spain, in the 2010 World Cup and the 2012 Euros, and then also for Sevilla, both before and after. And by the way, Navas is a guy who won two Euros 12 years apart. Isn't that remarkable? I think he was the only guy left from that 2012 team that won the Euros, that won a medal last year, right? In the Euros, when Spain defeated England in the final. So anyway, Walker leads kind of another tactical evolution, which is the inverted fullbacks. And then you saw something also innovative from Pep, which was this concept of the false 9 that everybody started copying. Now, the false 9 isn't merely putting a midfielder or a non-recognizable number 9 as a 9. The false 9 concept was used by Pep with guys like Phil Foden at times. Sterling had played in that role, although you could say Sterling maybe could have played more naturally as a 9 at times, because those players had an ability to come back into the play. And we're not talking about strikers who would drift deeper like Thierry Henry, right? They could come back into the play, link up. So you're lining someone up as a 9, but you're playing effectively with an additional midfielder, an additional ball player, which would just suffocate the opposition. Manchester City starts to change when Haaland is signed and they have a pure number 9, which they really didn't have before. Jesus is a guy that Pep was very frustrated with, I think, for very legitimate reasons. I don't want to get into that in this video. Jesus could have been a 9, but he wasn't going to work in a Guardiola system. So Pep has tactically moved the bar time and time again, and that's why he stayed ahead of the competition. So why am I saying now this season things are different? So first off, another tactical evolution from Guardiola was the return of a sweeper keeper who not only could sweep, like as Ederson did. I wrote an article about this last week at Beyond the 90, but could also deliver diagonal balls in open play. And that just stimulated these quick counterattacks using Sterling or Foden, Bernardo, whoever, Walker, whoever, Mahrez. And also a player that would come up and contract the space. So basically you could play a very high defensive line. Ederson comes off his line and is playing off his line, but he's playing like another field player. So you're never in a position where you have to save a one-on-one. The most famous one-on-one of the Guardiola era, which a City keeper saved, was Stefan Ortega saving that, making that one-on-one stop on Son to basically win Manchester City the title 2 seasons ago. But that happened because Ortega didn't have the same attributes as Ed Ederson. I think that opportunity never comes for Spurs if Ed Ederson is the keeper. So Ed Ederson being shipped off, I think, is another tactical evolution. And so you've got James Trafford coming in. And I embraced that because I said, you know what? And those of you who know me know my belief about football is it's about community. It's about supporters. So as a Manchester City supporter long term, I have wanted the club to get back to its roots of promoting guys from our academy. Foden is obviously one. But wouldn't it be nice if Morgan Rogers and Cole Palmer were playing for Manchester City right now instead of playing really well for other Premier League sides? At one time, we had one of the best academies in the country, and those guys were populating the first team. Stephen Ireland, Micah Richards, Neda Manoa, among others, right? Several. Sean Wright-Phillips, best of the bunch. Joey Barton, who was an Evertonian but came through City's academy. So I embraced the Trafford room, and I said, this is great. We're getting back to our roots. We've got Oscar Bob in the team. We got Rico Lewis in the team. Foden's still around. Yeah, we sold Palmer. We got a lot of money for him. Nico O'Reilly. But then City made the move for Donnarumma. And to me, that is a catastrophic sign that the Manchester City under Guardiola we recognize is over. Because Donnarumma, as great a shot stopper as he has none of the attributes of Ed Ederson. In terms of reading the game, in terms of coming off his line, he's nowhere near as good with his feet. It's not even a conversation. There's a reason why Luis Enrique said, okay, even though we won everything last year at PSG, enough, go. Because he doesn't fit the modern game as it's being played. You want a keeper who, I'll get into keeper attributes another time, and actually in our wheelhouse in terms of Beyond the 90 USL, I've had conversations with a lot of people around the league about what the attributes you want in a great keeper in this league, in the USL, and actually Donnarumma wouldn't match those either, as great as he is as a shot stopper. But Milan got better with Mengen, and I believe PSG will get better now. I think they have, and I think Man City will see they were better with Ed Ederson. But what does the Donnarumma signing tell us? In addition to some other signings City has made. Cherki, another player signed out of the French league. I watched him at Lyon a great deal. To me, he doesn't have the work rate to be in a Guardiola team at all. In any previous Barcelona, Bayern, or Manchester City team, that guy does not have the work rate. So then does he give you the creativity of a Jack Grealish or Doku now? No, he doesn't give you that either. He's an attacking player that's I think kind of a lazy man's attacking player of yesteryear. Why did Manchester City sign him? They must have seen something in the analytics. Bashiristan is no longer at the club, so maybe they're signing more random guys. Quite honestly, I'm not quite sure about the signing of Marmoush either. I liked him a lot at Frankfurt, but I'm not sure with Haaland there what you do with him. Are you playing him wide? But he's not a Mahrez or Sterling type wide player that City had in its heyday. Or even, he doesn't even have the attributes of Jesus, right? It's a different kind of player. So I've come to this, is Pep got some sort of genius plan for a team now that is overloaded with center backs, that's playing center halves all over the pitch, it feels like. Does not have fullbacks that can invert anymore. So you saw it sign Alt-Nouri. I liked him at Wolves, but he's just a guy he's just an overlapping runner. Doesn't have the ball playing skills of a Kyle Walker. Now, obviously, Alt-Nouri plays on the left, Walker played on the right, but you know what I'm saying. So often Guardiola had to move very good technical midfielders who could read the game to left back. Fabian Delph and Zinchenko come to mind. I'm sure someone else I'm blanking out on in the last few years. He had Danilo, who was a pure left back, and he didn't really like him. I don't know why. I don't think Danilo could do the inverted thing as well as an actual midfielder. Walker could. Kyle Walker, like I said, may be the best fullback in world football the last 15 years. Those guys don't grow on trees, so you're not going to get another one of those. So he's got kind of a different types of backs than he had when Manchester City won 6 titles in 7 years in the Premier League. And then you've got the Rodri injury situation, which he's aware of. So that's why Nico Gonzalez is there, who is not a particularly... his attributes are okay, but they don't stand out. They don't jump off a page. You see a team where Bernardo Silva is not playing as often as you would expect. That's very odd to me. Foden has been off. Bob and Doku and Savinho has signed a contract extension, and of course wanted to go to Spurs during the summer, and he would have fit in beautifully with what Thomas Frank always did at Brentford. So what is City doing? Is this some sort of brilliant, we're retrenching to a more defensive side? Because that's the way City has looked against United. That's the way they looked against Arsenal. That's the way they looked against Brentford, quite frankly. It's kind of the way they looked for 60 minutes against Burnley. Didn't really take the initiative. Now you have arguably the best number 9 in the world still, so you can play very direct to him. So is that what's going on? Are we seeing another tactical evolution that maybe this time won't get copied, which is we're going to play we're going to play an offside trap a lot. If not, we're going to play in a low block. We've got a keeper who's a better, quite frankly, Donnarumma, I'll concede, better shot stopper than Ederson. Well, maybe the best shot stopper in the world. So we're getting that rock solid keeper. We're going to play with center halves all over the pitch. So that's giving us more defensive stability, but less pace, less maybe tactical flexibility. And, we're not playing with a 10, and we're not playing with traditional wingers, but we're going to have fullbacks that overlap instead of inverting, and then we've got a 9, as good a 9 as they come. So we'll see, but just wanted to throw that out there for everyone. A happy international break.